everybody for our final session of submitters to our Māori ward hearings, and I'd like to welcome Hoririti and Tanya Eden, who will be speaking to us first this afternoon. Welcome to both of you. And you are, yes, welcome to remove your masks whilst you're presenting to us.
I acknowledge you, the Mayor, and the councillors. I acknowledge you all from the home people of these lands. To us all that have gathered here today in this house that pays homage to the soldiers.
Everybody, your worship, councillors. My name is Hoririti. I am the chair of Te Tai Whenua Te Whanganui Aorotu. Te Tai Whenua Te Whanganui Aorotu are the mandated iwi authority for Napier. We are representative of the 8 marae and the 16 hapu throughout our takiwa, or our boundaries. Our Tai Whenua wish to exercise our right as treaty partners. We wish to ensure that the voice of mana whenua is heard by Napier City Council around the creation and implementation of Māori wards in Napier. Earlier this year, Tai Whenua were not consulted with regarding the unilateral decision made not to go ahead with Māori wards for 2022. And in April, we called for an urgent hui with the Mayor and fellow councillors. And it was there that we requested the discussion around why that decision was made without engagement of mana whenua. In that time also, the Māori Committee of the Napier City Council received papers regarding the representation review overview, and that was outlined for Māori wards for 2025. So our biggest concern was that we knew there was an upcoming election in 2022 where we wanted the direction of the council to focus. That paper also stated that that the Napier City Council had established a new activity, Te Wakarangapu, which was focused to increase engagement with Māori to discuss the 2023-24 representation review. There was no focus or a lack of focus for the Māori wards of 2022. That is where we were earlier this year. Our Tai Whenua, we proposed that a time frame be implemented to support that journey into allowing for the implementation of 2022 Māori wards. We believe that between the 23rd of April and the 12th of May would have been enough time to engage the community, and in particular mana whenua and Māori. Unfortunately, that was not accepted. That proposal and time frame was not accepted. But the purpose of today for Te Tai Whenua Te Whanganui Aorotu is that we come to the council and we recommend that Māori wards 2025 go ahead. We are supported by mana whenua, hapu, marae, and the board of Te Tai Whenua. We are also supported by our post-settlement governance entities for our role within our rohe and also to support you in your decision. We wish to make this formal recommendation to Council to introduce Māori wards be based on a fairer representation for all Māori ratepayers on the Māori role, with the ability for Māori voters to select their own Māori representatives in a democratic process. We have stood beside the Napier City Council for generations. We want to stand side by side as partners moving into the future for the future generations to come. We are not going away, we are mana whenua. We do not get elected every 3 years. We are here forever. We have been waiting 181 years. Now the time has come for us to sit and be recognised as the true partner. The true partner. And we hope that we can work together for the betterment of our whole community. Te tai whenua led in activities over the past few years, over the past few months. We work tirelessly for the whole community of Napier throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, throughout the Napier floods. We were there to serve all families of Napier. We want what every citizen of Napier wants, and is to protect the future of Napier. Nō rā, kai aku nui, kai aku rahi.
So to you all, my esteemed chiefs, I acknowledge you all and I highly respect you all.
Kia ora. Thank you, Hori. I'll just open up for any questions from councillors. Councillor Tapani.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Ngā mihi nui kōrua. Thank you firstly for your submissions both in writing and here in person. Your closing comments, which spoke about the role of marae and the role of Māori here within Te Whanganui o Ahuriri. There are a number, almost more than my fingers, of events in the history of New Zealand since the settlement of settlers to Napier. Would you say, I've got two questions for you, would you say that in every instance, as you have with the COVID, as you have with the flood, as you have with many things, would you say that it has been the natural response of Māori to lend a hand to those in need when in duress in our history, and that every event such as the earthquake and others, there has always been the presence of Māori post that event to help a city recover?
Absolutely. I mean, you walk back in history, 1931 earthquake, our people were here to support the rebuild of Napier, right up through to the recent events over the last 12 months. But certainly it is of our nature to serve the community in any way that we can possible to ensure that our whānau, our people, get the help that they require in those times. So certainly we it is our call of duty.
Just to clarify, thank you for that answer. Just to clarify, in that statement where you said our people, our whānau, were you speaking of Māori alone then, or were you speaking of the city?
We speak of its entirety, our community.
Thank you. My second question is, this isn't a hugely difficult corridor to have, and so for my part, in this process, I'm I know that it's been hurtful, and I know that it's been uncomfortable, I know that it's been divisive, it's split families, and some of our marae are still arguing over some of the consequences. But would you say that currently, Māori are currently in a space of duress? Māori are currently in a space of need around whether or not the wards should be implemented. And if that's true, if you were to say that this was a moment of concern, let's water it all the way down to concern, which Māori might be seriously concerned to see an outcome in this space, what do you think would be your expectation of the city's support of your position, given the history of marae support to the city in this situation? What would you expect to see from the same community you've helped to invest in, including us?
I would like them to take the moment to look and reflect on those times that we have heed the call in times of help, and look that we did not do this for one part of the community. We've done this for the whole of our community. We only are here at this point supporting the implementation of Māori wards to allow another voice of the community to go forward, but also to address some of the needs around Māori statistics across the region, across the district. Our voice is heard within our own community. It's time for us to be able to share that voice as a true partner under the Treaty of Waitangi. Our people have stood behind this council from the establishment of Napier. In fact, to the demise of our people, to the detriment of our people and our lands. And we are still here today supporting the community. So I ask that you do reflect and look at those times that we have been through, the times that we have actually helped the whole and wider community to this very day.
Thank you very much.
Kia ora.
Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Kia ora, Hori, and Tanya, thank you very much for coming to speak to us and for your written submission. My question is similar to a question I asked an earlier submitter, and I suppose it centres around that we'd probably all agree that Māori wards are in themselves not a perfect system, and that you know, it comes with a number of risks or inherently significant disadvantages, some would say, for Māori in the system. And I suppose, so my question is, in your conversations with your whānau and with the Māori community, how have those issues been broached? Do you think there's a good understanding of what, in practice, those on the Māori role will see? Because, like I said to an earlier submitter, we've had some submissions and stuff around, for instance, Māori wardens, and just like a potential lack of understanding around what Māori wards will mean for those on the Māori role. So just interested in your commentary on how those conversations have gone in the whānau that you've talked to.
Yeah, so I think the biggest point around that has come from that is that a Māori voice be heard at the governing level of our city and the decision-making tables. Having our voice at that table will only support and value the direction of the city. So our people do understand as to what the benefits are of implementation of Māori wards. And yes, there are risks, but we see the value and benefits that certainly outrun the risks for us. But certainly our voice, number one, the voice at the decision-making table is an empowering voice for everyone.
Thank you. I think it's really valuable to see how you weight that. Thank you, appreciate it.
There's no further questions. Now, Tanya, you're down separately as a submitter, so...
Ai. Tēnā rā koutou katoa ki te kaunihira tēnā koutou.
Acknowledgements to you all and the councillors, to my family, my sub-tribe and my marae. My name is Tanya Eden, a descendant of Ngāti Kahungunu, Porou and Tūwharetoa. On my father's side, he is from Mōteo, Ngāti Hinepare, Ngāti Mahu. On my mother's side, she is from Wharekahika on the east coast. I grew up under Hikurangi in Otatara, and I reside there. So thank you all.
Kia ora, my name is Tanya Eden. I'm wearing two pōtai today. I'm also here to support the Tai Whenua, hoodie from the Tai Whenua. And the pōtai I wear today is in my private capacity as mana whenua, as a ratepayer and a citizen of Napier. The other pōtai I wear is as the chair of Mana Ahuriri, and when I get to Mana Ahuriri and my kōrero from Mana Ahuriri, Evelyn Ratima and Marie Brown will join me. My submission is in support of Māori wards. I grew up in Taradale and went to Bledisloe Primary, Taradale Intermediate and Taradale High School. The Hawke's Bay I grew up in was a place where families knew each other, worked together, played sport together and generally just got on with things. My parents were hard working. My father was a wharfie and my mother was a freezing worker. I went on to join the New Zealand Police and became an inspector at the Office of the Commissioner, and later spending over 30 years working in government, mainly as a senior manager throughout the public sector, working for the Ministry of Social Development in Auckland and also Housing New Zealand Kāinga Ora as a regional manager in Auckland. My background is in planning and policy. Having returned to Hawke's Bay, I am now the CEO for the Tai Whenua o Te Whanganui Aotearoa. As you have heard from Huri, the previous submission, the Tai Whenua are also supportive of Māori wards and were bitterly disappointed when Council chose not to go ahead with Māori wards 2022. You see, arguments about Māori political representation are not new. Since the 1840s, our people have had their land taken by physical and legal force, have been punished for speaking our language, were in prison for practising our culture and protecting our land, given no rights when they returned from fighting in wars for our country, excluded from a ballot system, allocating land to more than 9,000 non-Māori veterans and made to live under a system of governance built and operated by the people who did this to us. Yesterday and today, you've heard of this. Many of the submitters talk about the treaty and what it means to them and what it means to their family and the rights of tangata whenua. So I know you are all informed on these. It is time for change, Napier. And over the next 12 months, Napier will change. Over the next 4 years to 2025, Napier will change. Over the next 10 to 20 years and beyond, Napier will change. Our city will have a larger, more diverse population. The impact of COVID and how we live, work and play will have a major impact on not only the world as we knew it, New Zealand, Aotearoa New Zealand, Hawke's Bay and also Napier. Technology will change the way we work, live and move around and how we do business. Yesterday we heard from the young people, from our youth, who submitted on a number of areas supporting Māori wards, but they also talked about climate change and how that will require us also to change. We've also heard from them that their views are different from their parents. Where their parents see separatism, they see opportunity, diversity and equity if Māori wards were to be implemented. Our treaty partnerships will move into a new phase as well, and increasingly the partnership will focus on enduring relationships and building a future where we can all prosper, live and work together. That's why it's really, really important that we have Māori wards as a start to make sure we can rebuild our relationship here in Napier between the council and mana whenua. This is an opportunity for us to work together, not in a paternalistic way, but an approach where we, the community, we as mana whenua, we as ratepayers and citizens are leading the way. We cannot change the decision that was made earlier this year not to go ahead with Māori Wards 2022. Although many of our people did not agree with this, and I certainly did not, I'm here today to say to you as a council that the voice of Māori needs to be at the table. In order for this to be an effective council, it is our submission that Māori Wards go ahead. As raised at our submission to the long-term plan earlier this year, your approach to Māori Wards was poor. Your unwillingness to develop a consultation plan with mana whenua and manage steps to enable Māori Wards for 2022 was unacceptable and did bring immeasurable harm to your relationship with mana whenua. That was really unfortunate because when we were presented with a paper prior to consultation, our tai whenua and PSGEs and other marae weren't named in there. We were put in a bubble on the side and we were called Māori entities. And that was how the consultation process, I guess, was designed by the council. Without consultation, you unilaterally determined this position without involving us. In our view, this was a breach of your delegated treaty obligations and has impacted on establishing Māori Wards for 2022. There was discussion and the Mayor talked about her personal position that supported Māori Wards, and this was irrelevant as the core matter and focus is on a process to enable Māori Wards. This is a long-standing and was a live issue that the Council should have been able to plan for, consult on and enable in the time frame set by the Minister. Hastings District Council and the Hawke's Bay Regional Council managed to. Mana whenua advised at the council meeting, as alluded to by a few speakers today, and Elena Hokianga raised it as well in her submission, that at the meeting on the 22nd of April to commence consultation with mana whenua in order to enable a meaningful process. This could have been managed with mana whenua and would have strengthened not only our relationship, but the goodwill to work together for the betterment of Napier. This did not happen. As we move into the future local government reforms, water reforms, RMA reforms, climate change legislation, I ask you, where is the voice of Māori? Where will the voice of Māori be if you decide not to go ahead with Māori Wards? I acknowledge the mahi our whānau, Steph, Morihu, Bev and Hilary are doing in this space and look forward to the fruits of the advice of the Council as we move through to building an enduring relationship. However, as we look through the many reforms, and there are many, it is imperative that the Napier City Council have the voice of Māori at the table. To be quite frank, Māori are tired from hearing from councillors and others to say that we already have two people on council. They are Māori, and the inference that Māori Wards are racist. Let me congratulate these two councillors for getting on the council, but they do not represent the interests of Māori, evidenced by their lack of support for the implementation of Māori Wards 2022. Yesterday I heard one of the councillors ask, where are you guys when we ask for submissions to the long-term plan and district plans? I presume he was referring to Māori. Let me provide some context. You guys, as in we Māori, have been major contributors to not only district planning, long-term planning and submissions for many other areas across all four councils. We also have been major contributors during emergency events, such as the events Huri raised, such as the pandemic when it hit last year, providing food and care packages to over 2,000 families in Napier when others closed their doors, leading the community response for the Napier floods in November last year. Again, setting up a food hub to feed our Napier families, helping those that had lost their homes and then driving and leading the community clean-up response to help our families of Napier. And just last weekend, leading the Super Saturday vaccination clinic at Pack and Save, where we had a record number of 918 people vaccinated and the highest number of first-time vaccinations in the country. This is what we guys do. We are here to help the Napier community, and despite the majority of us holding down other full-time roles, we continue to go above and beyond to ensure the families of Napier are supported and kept safe. So that is why it's really, really important to have the relationship with mana whenua and also to have Māori at the table. As mana whenua, we hold a long-term intergenerational approach that would enable the type of partnership that is critical to the success of Napier. To look forward means we must plan from the future. It is important that we remain focused on what the future needs to be to grow, sustain and build prosperous, healthy, vibrant and culturally strong communities, Māori, whānau and hapu. We are here to advocate, grow and ensure strong outcomes for our people, our marae and hapu. This role should be understood by the Napier City Council and is set out in your own structures, your own plans around events such as Napier flooding and the recovery, where the approach and recovery lists a partnership model from governance to operations. It has been recognised that we must work together to ensure our families are supported. It should not only be difficult times such as COVID, flood management and recovery and vaccination clinics that our partnership is acknowledged. These partnerships should be enduring and be integrated through all processes. I'm going to continue on because I've got a submission from Mana Ahuriri which I'll roll into, but I'd just like to invite my colleagues up to join me. And Beverly's sitting here. We also acknowledge her as a trustee for Mana Ahuriri. As I said, to look forward means we must plan from the future. It is important that we remain focused. We are here to advocate, grow and ensure strong outcomes for all our people. It should not only be in those difficult times that we do that, as I just said. As part of looking forward, let me highlight some key points on why we need a Māori voice at the table. The Māori population continues to grow, with over 10,000 more Māori in 2031 in Hawke's Bay alone. The median age for Māori is 24 and 37 years for all other New Zealanders. 89% of our Māori residing here, we know our iwi, we know where we are from, and Ngāti Kahungunu is the third largest iwi in the country. The rangatahi population will continue to grow and represents an increasing percentage in the working age population. They will be the ones who pay for your super when we retire, for our super when we retire. So we need to focus on upskilling our rangatahi and preparing a workforce for the future. Māori represent about 1 in 3 in the working age population who are not in the labour force, and our unemployment rate is twice that of the total unemployment rate. Māori annual household income is $11,000 less than all households in Aotearoa. This has an impact on the future as we need to ensure that our whānau, and in particular our young people, are prepared and able to contribute effectively. I'm saying to you as councillors, the way forward is to create effective local governance with a strong Māori voice at the table. This can create the conditions in which communities prosper and thrive. It's not all about being statute driven, it's the partnerships and relationships which also count. If we can for a moment imagine what life would be like if we have parity and equality throughout all council systems, not just Māori wards, but processes including your staff, your committees, your hearing panels, and of course representation. Our people are not only a community of interest or stakeholders, as I have said, we are large contributors of the economy. Our people, our marae, our taiwhenua, our iwi, our PSGs all contribute not only as significant ratepayers, but also as consumers and high users of many products and services Napier offers. You have got nothing to fear. We all want what is best for our community. our children and our mokopuna. There's nothing to fear with Māori wards. Mana Ahuriri is a post-settlement governance entity set up to receive the proceeds of the Ahuriri deed of settlement from the Crown. Mana Ahuriri is made up of the 7 hapu of Ahuriri. When Mana Ahuriri settles shortly, we will become a major contributor to the economy of Napier, both financially, economically, socially and culturally. On my side here, and also Bev over there, we are the face of Mana Ahuriri. We are the face of the future. Chad, Marie, Evelyn and myself and Bev, we sit here committed to Māori wards. And I speak on behalf of those that aren't here. Joseph, Mike, Alana Hiha, who puts her apologies in. She was meant to do the kōrero today, but she's busy working with our disabled children. And also Piri Prentice, who's worked tirelessly on this claim. So we acknowledge them too that aren't here today. Along with the other PSGs in Hawke's Bay, our contribution will be in excess of $500 million. We will be major landowners in Napier and will look closely to work with public and private organisations in areas of housing and other commercial developments. We will be looking for partners. We will be looking for our treaty partners and looking to work with other groups such as local authorities. We will be making a meaningful contribution to our Napier economy and the well-being of our hapu and Napier community. And when I say our community, I'm not just talking about Māori. We're talking about everyone. Everyone in Napier will benefit from this. Our initiatives will bring people to Napier, bring businesses to Napier, create employment and grow the economy of Napier. Mana whenua will be a big player in the future of Ahuriri Napier. So, our expectations of the Council is that it will be reflective of our community and that the voice of Māori will be at the table and will be heard. Again, what have you got to fear? Māori wards do not take away anyone's rights. They provide an opportunity for councils to have the voice of Māori at the table. Councils all around us have voted yes, and Māori wards are well on the way to becoming the norm. Establishing Māori wards is positive and future focused. It enables us to right the wrongs of the past, to learn and to do what is the right thing to do. When our people went to war to fight for our country, they paid the price of citizenship. This was the price we paid because full equality had yet to be won. This is our time as a Napier community to now do what is right. We are the hapu, mana whenua of Ahuriri Napier. We are Ngāti Hinepare, Ngāti Mahu, Ngāti Matipu, Ngai Tāwhao, Ngai Te Ruruku, Ngāti Tū and Ngāti Pāro. Let Napier be an example of what a true treaty partnership looks like. We vote yes to partnerships, inclusiveness and diversity. We vote yes to change, and we want you as councillors to vote yes to Māori wards. We are here for time immemorial as our ancestors were. We are part of the community of Napier. Councillors, you have nothing to fear and everything to gain if you vote yes to Māori wards. Nō reira, ka nui taku mihi kia koutou katoa.
So I give the highest acknowledgements to you all.
Te whanganui aorotu, te mana I noho I runga I te whānau nei. Mai rā anō, mai rā anō.
To impart the mana of these lands to us all.
Kia ora.
So I acknowledge you all.
Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Tarpany.
Ngā mihi nunui ki a koutou katoa. Firstly to the Tai Whenua, thank you very much for your submission and congratulations to the new members of Mana Ahuriri and this brave new future we hope to walk into. I've got 2 questions for you. Thank you for particularly linking the activities of our marae to the growing state of our city and where the maraes have been an integral part of not only the social needs of our city, but some of the more practical measures like the delivering of parcels to those in need. So there are limitations and challenges that abound with a Māori ward seat. It's not a perfect model. It's a part of the Westminster system, so has its warts. This Westminster democratic system is designed from an English pattern of democracy. It won't be easy, it has unique challenges and will require significant investment and drivers from Te Ao Māori. Knowing these barriers and challenges, do you think wards, or a Māori ward at this table, is still a valid option for Council to consider? Would you still want a voice at the table, knowing that this option comes with warts? So it's a flawed option that we're considering. Would you still want it, even though it might not be the most efficient car in the garage?
Kia ora, P. We don't see it as you do. We see opportunities. We don't see barriers. And this is a start. And I listened to Andrew Judd this morning saying, this is the start of it. And he's right. This is the start for us. This is the first time we've had the opportunity to have Māori wards. And for Māori wards, when I look at Te Wairau, they've had Māori wards, you know, not for a long time now, but, you know, well, they've been in place. And there's some amazing things happening in Te Wairau with the voice of Māori at the table. So we see it as opportunities. We know about the Westminster system and looking at Parliament and looking at what happened down there, you know, in relation to our people. The voice of Māori is unapologetic. And I think it's, like I said, an opportunity for Napier City Council to put in place Māori wards.
Karawi, thank you for that response. And my second question is, you're not the first to use these terms during the submissions, and they're in the written submissions as well, so I'd love to hear your insight. The words be brave, show courage, don't be afraid, be bold, there's nothing to fear. Why is it that Māori, when speaking of this kaupapa to council, refer to courage? What does courage have to do with democracy in this space as far as you're concerned?
To be quite honest, I think you need to direct that question to your fellow councillors.
Thank you.
Councillor Price.
I'd just like to clarify a point that a question by Councillor Tapani might not necessarily be a question by all councillors. We're asking as individuals to satisfy ourselves. So this question mightn't be a question that I would ask. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Just a comment. I think that's the whole point of this debate, isn't it? Recognising that we each have a different perspective and how that perspective is heard at this table.
Thank you very much, Tanya, and Evelyn, Marie, Chad, and Fire Bev as well.
To my esteemed relations of Ngāti Hinepare, Ngāti Māhu, Ngai Tāwhai, Ngāti Tū, Ngāti Matepu, Ngai Te Ruruku, Ngāti Pārau, the 7 sub-tribes of Te Whanganui Ōrotu. I acknowledge you for voicing the aspirations of the families in the sub-tribes. Thank you.
And Evelyn, you're up next, so we'll...
I'll move over. Yep, aye. Yeah.
Kia ora.
Oh, tēnei te mihi a tēnei ki a kui te rangatira.
I acknowledge you, the Mayor.
Kia koutou rāna me mau te
And
kaingira.
to all the councillors,
Tēnei te mihi a tēnei kia koutou rā.
I acknowledge you all.
Ko Ngāti Kirimuki i te ko Ngāti Kirimuki i nai tātara, nai tangaro, nai Ngāti Hine Uru, nai tau, me nā hapu toko whitu o ahuriri.
These are all the tribes and sub-tribes. The ocean, Tangoio is the marae. My name is Evelyn Ratima.
Tēnei te mihi a tēnei ki a koe te puari ana.
Greetings to all.
I just want to acknowledge our previous speakers, the chair of Te Tai Whenua o Te Whanganui a Orotu, and also the chair of Mana Ahuriri. And I just want to acknowledge our whānau kimirira, all our whānau who have come to tautoko, our kōrero. And I also want to acknowledge the mahi and the work and the research that my colleagues here have put on the table. And they put all the researches that has been done, it's like they put all their pearls on the table for you. This is what we come here with. We find the best part of us to give to you, to share with you. Don't be afraid. Take it. Don't tear it apart, because those are our treasures that we offer you on the table. Don't tear it apart. This is who we are. We want to share it with you all. These are our taonga. We don't want to. These are our treasures. That's why we're here, having a voice at your table. Don't see it as something you shouldn't have. See it as a gift. As a gift. We're only a few here. We want our voice heard. Our voices are valuable. This is our pedigree. Not our degree. We don't have a master's in whatever the Crown have, but this is our pedigree. And this is the best of our pedigree that we offer you on the table. This is what we bring to the table. We bring Manaaki, we bring us. We want to share our culture. Two cultures, as the treaty says, two cultures walking together. We want to bring unity to the table. So in my kōrero, I've spoken about it before, but I bring it again. And I speak about unity. So I'll begin with, firstly, to tell you how important it is that you continue to walk these walks, which bring our people together. And all the countries need unity. All the countries need unity. We need unity. Ahuriri needs unity. So on behalf of our representative, and also, and that was the comments that was made. I got Chris at the back here. Oh, sorry, not Chris, he's not here. So, a lot of comments came from the Soviet Union, USA, Germany, Switzerland, Sweden and Holland, and Chris Walters from Zurich, as we walk for unity. Napier and the people of Napier walked side by side with our Māori people together to find unity. But with that, and that walk for unity actually brought not only our people together, but brought people from all over the world to unite with us, who came here to walk beside us. Napier. This is Napier, showing the world how to walk in unity. Our kaunihira should take a look at that. See how it works. Don't be afraid to allow it to happen. Lift those barriers, because we can move mountains together. So Joe Reti in 1989, along with Pat McGill of Napier, began the first Walk for Unity. Various maraes visited over the duration of a 9-day event. From Napier to Taupo, in the hope of recognition for equality and peace among mankind. That starts from here, from our councils and our communities working together, united. So you might well ask, what's that got to do with Māori wards? Well, it's got everything to do with Māori wards. Our people are so far apart. Just have a look at our whānau at the back, where they come from. They'll come all the way from Heneuru, from Ngāti Pāro, from Ngāi Tāwhau, all over. But they all live around the outskirts of Napier. They don't have a voice in the operations of how council works now when you vote. They're too far and spread out. But bring them together as one, they will choose their leader. Council can't represent our people. They think they know what our people want, but they don't. We can't go to any one of you to say and to speak on behalf of Māori. You will try to, but you can't because you haven't got that authority. Our people will choose that person who will have that authority, who will speak on our behalf, which is only one person amongst all of you. So why would you be afraid of that? Don't be afraid, let it happen. Let us make our mistakes. You will see if it works or not. But it'll be on our shoulders if it doesn't. So to further on from that is a little history of how Ahuriri came to be, and that was Fred Reti. And that's how it started, from a walk for unity. And from that walk for unity was when everybody galvanised together, then that's when the claims began. So, the world has its eyes and are looking on us and see how we work. So, well, all I can say, unity has not been achieved today. It has not been achieved today. You can just tell by all the kōrero goes about how racist we are. We're not racist. We're actually proud people. We aren't rich people, but we have got, our wealth is in our manaaki. Our wealth is in supporting, and that's what we can do. But we don't need to use our other people to tell us how to do our business. We know how to do our business, but we want to share with you our qualities in the best we can, in the best way we can. So I see Māori wards as an opportunity for Māori to participate in council in a Māori way. Māori representation means the people we select will have the authority and mandate to speak on behalf of Māori. You may well say there are already Māori who sit on council, and that's cool. They've earned it. They choose to stand and we're voted in, mainly by Pākehā because Māori, well, we're too few and spread out apart, and we don't vote. That's pretty much the truth. Allowing Māori wards will give us Māori a chance and a voice that would be heard. Let us choose who we want to advocate on our behalf. We want the guarantee of Māori representation at the table that a ward or wards would bring. There's a risk around trying to build Māori capability at committee levels where we can provide advice, but that's not the same as influencing and making decisions. So don't underestimate the will of the community and recognise having a Māori advocate at the table can be beneficial to all. Give us a chance to be united. The walk for unity still continues. Nō reira, koutou mā. Ko oti taku nei pūrongo, kia ora koutou.
Kia ora. Thank you, Evelyn. Are there any questions from councillors? You're off the hook. No questions.
To you, my treasured gift, my featured gift. Thank you for your discussions and your sharing of your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming and taking the time to speak to us today. Kia ora. Do we have Heather Skipworth with us?
Oh, she's in the back in the pink.
Ah, kia ora. Ah, yes. Welcome, Heather.
Te paku mihi tuatahi.
I'd like to start with acknowledgements to our Father up above.
Sorry, Heather, I've just asked you to get a little bit closer to the microphone, sorry, so we can hear you.
I'll start again. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge our Father in heaven. Thank you. To those who have departed, rest in eternal peace. And us, the living faces, the descendants, to us, the tōtara trees, the remnants of those who have departed. Who is this woman that stands before you? Puhara Hawaikirangi slept with Whaitiri Wairua Hawaikirangi and beget Urupene Puhara.
Ia marata te hiuhiu neri a kapota a hepina puhara ka moia hepina puhara ia kani hori a kapota a wī kani.
These are Heather's ancestral links.
Ia merehine ke te tangata ke kupa a kapota a rohu te hiuhiu kani. Ka moia rohu te hiuhiu kani. Ia Emily Ngāngaru Fraser. A ka puta a tanira he mana te rohu te a kani. Ka moia tanira he mana te rohu kani. Ia Kevin John James Anglin te o. A ka puta a Heather te o. Ka moia Heather te o ki taku hoa rangatira a Wayne Joseph Skipworth. No reira whānau, he mokopona hau
And here I
o Ngāti
am,
Pāro.
a descendant of Ngāti Pāro and the ancestors I have mentioned. My name is Heather Skipworth. Thank you.
Aroha mai ki taku tuara whānau. So today, I sit here within the premise of my whakapapa, knowing that many of my ancestors are here supporting me today, and also as a proud and unapologetic member of Te Pāti Māori. I am also the co-founder, along with my husband Wayne, of the Iron Māori Kaupapa that has brought much pride to Ahuriri and a great economic impact. Firstly, I would like to mihi to you all for the opportunity to speak to my submission today. However, I cannot help but wish today was April 2021. I would also like to lead on by airing my disappointment to you all today on your lack of foresight and planning to ensure the deadline was met in voting for Māori wards by the 21st of May 2021. Numerous murmurs of not enough time could be heard coming from the mouths of many of you councillors here today. I find that an inexcusable excuse. You took away the mana that lies within the whenua of Ahuriri and the mana of tangata whenua. I am no great mathematician. However, I took it upon myself to calculate the time you all needed to get here today, which by my calculation is around 5 months. Having said that, Minister Mahuta had declared that this was going to be one of her conscious projects, and you were all aware of this. Her party succeeded to govern this country alone in October 2020. That should have been an immediate notification to you all to prepare yourselves, which would have given you all 7 months to May 21, 2021. I spoke to Councillor Boweg in April and asked where this council was at in terms of Māori wards, to which her reply was it has not come across our board papers. To me, sadly, that is pure negligence on all your behalf.
Te tiriti o Waitangi should be at the forefront of your minds and on the tip of your tongues when you are in your counsellor capacity. I would like to help you all understand the significance of upholding Te tiriti o Waitangi and enlighten you all by saying there is beauty within Te tiriti o Waitangi for all that has yet to be explored. So every time as councillors you are questioned around how and what are the benefits to having Māori wards, I encourage you to repeat those words of there is beauty within Te tiriti o Waitangi for all that has yet to be explored. When we Māori think of cultural connectivity, it's more than a waiata, it is more than a karakia, and it is more than a haka, although all have great significance to who we are. But reminding you all of our whakapapa to this world, beginning with Ranginui and Papatuanuku, the Sky Father and the Earth Mother. It is why when we recite our pepeha that we mihi to our waka, a reminder to you all how Māori came to be here and how we are the tangata whenua of Aotearoa. Our awa and essence needed for one of life's essentials. Our maunga that lie within Papatuanuku, from what we are made up of. From the earth we came, and to the earth shall we return. Our hapu, the womb of whakapapa. Our iwi, the pride that lies within the expansion of whakapapa. And our marae, the centre point to where we all return to for whanaungatanga, manaakitanga, tautoko, and most of all, for grounding. You see, that is our environment, and we don't feel that you have the environment's best interest at heart. Climate change will force the change. It isn't exclusive. It will come for us all. We need to be consciously working together toward being better kaitiaki. We treasure people over profit. As mentioned before, we have an elevated connection to te ao. We can work together in a concerted approach in many aspects. We too are educated, but education that existed prior to colonisation. Yet we have been forced to live in a colonial system while still and proudly maintaining our own systems and tikanga. This whole process, sadly, is a colonial process. We are the tangata whenua, and Te tiriti was created to enhance the relationship between tangata whenua and the Crown. However, I find it quite ironic that after 181 years of the signing of Te tiriti o Waitangi, I am sitting here as a tangata whenua, as a direct descendant of one of the great chiefs of Ahuriri, having to defend our rights to sit at the table and asking to have my rights enabled 181 years later. You all represent the Crown, every single one of you. None of you, irrespective of whether you are Māori or not, you do not represent Māori. You all represent the Crown. Non-Māori have enjoyed their rights that Te tiriti have allowed them, yet Māori have been left out, not allowing them the opportunity to enjoy theirs, and often left and treated as second-class citizens on our own lands. Our systems and tikanga have stood the test of time, and we continue to share them with you all. However, you continue to cherry-pick what you all believe would be best for us Māori. You choose how, you choose who, and you even choose how many. Tell me how you are not conflicted in these decisions. Your roles and your income could be affected. You will all decide on your own future as councillors. May I ask, with no malice intended, do you all enjoy the privilege that Te tiriti has allowed you to sit at the table and make decisions for Māori? We Māori would also like to feel and enjoy that privilege, but alongside you as tangata whenua. Before I close, I wish to mihi to the many who have stood up for Māori rights before me, who sat in the chair like me and others, who stood to be heard. It is your shoulders that I humbly stand on today, to be a voice for our people. I plead with every single one of you today. Please do not exhaust my children, my mokopuna and my unborn mokopuna, to have to march and protest and to submit and speak to our rights and interests under te tiriti. I ask that you all be a genuine te tiriti partner. Let us not forget that there is beauty within te tiriti o Waitangi for all that has yet to be explored.
Kia ora. Thank you, Heather. I'll open up for questions from councillors. You can tell we're getting near the end of the submissions. Questions tend to dry up a little bit. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to us today, Heather. It's much appreciated.
Kia ora.
I acknowledge you, the descendant of Ngāti Pāro, in your submission. Thank you, Heather.
I'd like to invite Jess Mio to present to us next, please. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. Ki te tuatahi he mihi ki ngā tangata whenua o te roki
Firstly,
nei.
I'd like to acknowledge the people of this land.
He nui te mihi kia koutou.
Big acknowledgements to you guys.
A ko ai au, he
Who
tau
am I?
Pākehā
I
hau.
am a
No
foreigner.
Peretānia o Kutipuna.
My ancestors are from Britain.
Tipu aki au I runga I te whenua o Pirirākau, tētahi
I
hatu
was
o
raised
Tauranga Moana.
on the lands of Pirirākau and
Tēnā te
Tauranga
mihi kia
Moana,
rātou.
and I'd
E
like
noho
to
ana
acknowledge
hau nai
them.
nei ki konei.
I now reside
Ki
here
Ahuriri.
in Ahuriri and
Ki
Napier,
runga I te whenua o Ngāti Pāro,
on the lands of Ngāti Pāro, Ngāti Hinepare, Ngāti Hinemoa,
Tēnei te mihi kia
and
rātou.
I'd like to acknowledge them
Ki ngā
also.
hapu katoa o Ahuriri
To all the
anō.
tribes of
Ko Jess
Ahuriri,
Mio o taku ingoa.
my name is Jess
Nō
Mio.
reira, tēnei te mihi kia koutou katoa.
Acknowledgements to all.
So my name is Jess, I'm Tauiwi Pākehā, non-Māori and white. Ancestors are from Britain, and I support Māori wards for Napier City Council. And I guess my key point to you all is that I see you all, every councillor, every person who works at Napier City Council, every person who's involved in this council as a good person. You are all good people. This institution of Napier City Council, on the other hand, has a toxic history. It has not been a good institution. It descends from the Crown, which has never been a loving, fair, respectful institution. It dates back to feudalism in Europe. Not a nice time, I think it's fair to say. And arrives here through global European imperialism, invasion, supported by such things as the doctrine of discovery, which saw Indigenous peoples as less than human, and which supported crowns of Europe, Christian crowns, to invade the lands of Indigenous peoples, subjugate and conquer. Related to that was the idea of terra nullius, empty land, where if there were not already Christian European people in a land, then it was empty, even when it was populated with people who weren't European and Christian. In 1840, William Hobson, the signer of Te Tiriti o Waitangi on behalf of the Crown, declared Te Waipounamu, the South Island, to be terra nullius, empty land, despite knowing that it was populated, that it was the homelands of many people. This is because he was of a time, he himself was contributing to this worldview from Europe, that Indigenous peoples were not human. Therefore, he declared the South Island of this country to be under the sovereignty of the Crown through terra nullius. Through there, we get the creation of the New Zealand government after the 1852 Constitution Act, which was passed by the British Parliament for the establishment of kāwanatanga here. But not rightful, honourable kāwanatanga under Te Tiriti o Waitangi, but a dishonourable, hateful kāwanatanga that was set up from the get-go to exclude, where only men who were holders of property and individual title were welcomed to stand as members and to vote, excluding everybody else on their own homelands. That is the very first and most fundamental betrayal of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, is the presumption that people from the other side of the world could come and set up their own system of decision-making here, extracting wealth from this land and denying those whose homelands it had already been, mai rā anō, from the beginning of time here, the right to freedom on their own lands. From there, the New Zealand government sets up these, or delegates powers to councils like this, Napier City Council. So this council is not neutral. This is not neutral democracy. Democracy is the will of the people. This was not set up with the will of all the people. It was set up excluding Māori people and a whole lot of other tauiwi as well. So, you are all good people working within this institution, and you have a wonderful opportunity tomorrow to make this institution a little bit less toxic, a little bit less hateful, a little bit more loving, a bit more respectful, a bit more capable of making decisions that are right for our communities here, that provide for our mutual thriving as tangata whenua and tauiwi together. So I encourage you all to take that opportunity to lead and to show that together we can cast off those old things, we can cast off that ugliness, and we can move to a really beautiful, thriving future. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora. Thank you, Jess. Are there any questions from councillors? Thank you very much for taking the time to come and submit to us.
Thank you, Jess. Even though you're from England, your heart is Māori. Tēnā koe.
I'd like to invite Jenny Nelson-Smith. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Welcome.
I've got a PowerPoint
Ah,
on a pen drive. Is that able to get up?
it certainly is. We'll get one of the admin team to help you with that.
I think it's on. I ngā mana i ngā reo e ngā kārangarangatanga, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou,
To the people from all walks of life, acknowledgements to all. I'd like to acknowledge you all, even though this is a small acknowledgement, it is with good intentions.
As he's finding the, oh, there we go, PowerPoint presentation. I just want to, I was looking through some of my stuff, And you'll note that this is a presentation from the 17th of October 2017, so I'm not new at this. I read it and I thought, well, actually it still applies. A lot can happen in 4 years though. Kia ora. A bit about myself. I've moved to Napier with my daughters and my moko, who whakapapa to Tangoe o Marae. I myself whakapapa through Paranihia Pānapa, who was the wife of Kurupō Tareha, who was the son of Tareha Te Moana Nui. Paranihia was a cousin of my grandfather's, and she lays in the Urupa in Mataweka in Waipawa at our marae. So, kia ora. So Māori representation, it's an evolving discussion. This was to the regional council, so, and they were talking about 2 Māori representatives. And you'll see there 1999, 2005, 2011, 2017. I've been pleading with councils for the last 40 years to afford me the rights that I'm due, and my children and my moko. So it has been a long evolving discussion, and I'm asking the council to vote yes to this. So a snapshot. And this is what I predicate my claim on and my whānau is that there are 4 Māori seats established in 1867 to give Māori a direct say in Parliament. And it's taking us a very, very long time to actually gain the fruits of those decisions. It was first past the post, then we went to MMP, and today we have a Labour-led government with a 15-member Māori caucus, for which 6 are cabinet ministers. We have 2 members in government from the Māori Party, and we have quite critical, I think, friends of Māori ministers across the government. So if there was ever a moment for local government to reflect or begin the journey that our national government has, it's today. And I've just gone through that MMP, Māori seabed foreshore. People were still taking Māori land, whatever was kept, and utilising it for other legislation holders. The Māori seabed foreshore started with the Nelson Council, wanting Wakatu investment monies in their aquaculture venture. That's how that started. It's an old conversation, it's a long conversation, and it's an ongoing conversation, and it's a never-ending conversation. So, the Māori Representation Act in 1867 was where it all started, that Māori should have the right to vote and to engage in national elections. And I'm asking not only to vote, but to prioritise things that are important to them. And I believe that you can only prioritise iwi hapu whānau priorities through a Māori lens. And it's really simple. You and I know that it's election year next year. We know that there is an unprecedented amount of pressure on standing councillors, especially after the publication of, 98% are against Māori wards. So that implies that there's a lot of pressure on councillors to make that decision. If you have a Māori councillor, they have a different set of pressures because it's the Māori electoral roll that vote for them, so they have a clear voice, unfettered by the other partner in the treaty, and can at least voice their claim. I know people say that, oh, you don't get the votes. Well, we started out with 4 seats. We're getting the votes now at national level. I'm hoping that in another 40 years, there will be an equitable place at the table as a treaty partner with our local bodies. So I'm optimistic. You have to be. So I'm saying we've got a long history of this, and it actually lifts my heart to see a lot of young people involved in this, because I've been in this for 40 years, and the direction and passion is still there. Now, you remember there was a lot of issues over Mayor Andrew Judd, and I've just talked about the pressure on councillors and mayors. He stood up. He stood up for Māori, and it got so bad he had to resign. He felt compelled to resign because he wanted to support Māori constituencies in his council as a mayor. So that's why I'm not appreciative of the publication of 98% submissions are against it prior to the hearing of oral submissions, because to me the only intent for that is to put pressure on people to remain the status quo. So we've had a rather tumultuous relationship with the idea of Māori constituencies, and Andrew Judd, ex-mayor, is a previous point in case. So I'm asking this council and the mayor to have courage. Kia kaha, kia mai, kia manawa nui.
Be strong, be
There's
brave
always
and be
tension
steadfast.
in doing the right thing and doing things right. And I'm asking this council to do the right thing. when was it? 1850, 34, whatever it was, when we started the 4 seats. It's about time we got into a full partnership. So there's Mayor Judd. Threats to Māori representation is nothing new. One last time I'll say I'm really disappointed at the publication of who was for and against before these hearings. It's been a long road. These are statistics. 4 years ago, they would have increased by now. But I'm mindful that the Māori constituency, those that can vote for that Māori representative, has to be on the Māori roll. And I find it really challenging that everybody else that isn't on the Māori roll gets to make a choice about that. So all those on the Māori roll have a choice on their Māori constituency. And the whole world has a right, well, the Napier City members and ratepayers have a right for something that they actually can't vote for their person. So it's a little challenging. So I'm asking this council to afford me the rights of a treaty partner that I'm already getting at a national level, to have that afforded to me at a local level. I want an unfettered view of iwi hapu whānau values and priorities of urgency at the table. I know that we don't have enough votes for it if we get it passed, but I at least want it printed and published and kept on record. Because when my moko looked this up for a PhD or for another battle at the table, I want it on record that these things have happened. I suppose so, without any further ado, I'd just like to end it there, that I again implore the council to have the courage to do the right thing, and to allow iwi hapu whānau a voice, an unfettered voice at the table. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you, Jenny. I'd just open up for any questions from councillors. And we do just want to provide some clarity for you, Jenny, about this 98% that you've been stating. So I'll just hand over to the Chief Executive just to talk to that for a moment.
Kia ora, Jenny. So we've just been having a bit of a conversation about where those numbers may have come from, and we believe you might be referring to some media reports. However, the only numbers that Napier City Council has published is our 45% in favour and our 54.4% against. So I just wanted to clarify that we haven't put 98% out in the public at all, and in fact the numbers are 45% and 54%. Thank you.
Kia ora. Well, we can't control what's out there with the media. I would have thought though that any numbers be released after this, because it actually puts pressure on this. So I came to the table knowing full well I was uphill with a fork. And that was the intended, well, that was the use of that information. So that's really my main point. Kia ora.
Kia ora. And we do actually have an obligation prior to the hearings to release that information. That is part of how the process works with regards to how we have to run hearings and consultations. So we don't have any option but to release that information. Yeah, but I completely understand your perspective in saying that that does put additional pressure on you as a submitter if you're submitting perhaps on the side that has received less support. So,
kia ora. And just something to ponder. Systems inequities. It's not about equality. Iwi hapu whānau already behind the mark. And then the systems compound that. So, but, you know, can't fix it today.
Thank you, Jean, and I acknowledge your ancestry and you sharing your thoughts with us all today. Thank you.
Kia ora, Jenny. And we have arrived at our final submitter. I'd like to invite Kaha Hawaikirangi up to present to us, please.
Okay.
Welcome to Kaha. Kia ora.
Whakarongo rā e tāne ki te ahu reo. Ki ngā pū, ki ngā wānanga, ngā tāura, ki ngā tauira. Ki ātupu e ho ke te pū, ko te wehu, ko te rito, ko te take, i tōroro, i tōroro. Tēnei rā te whakāhu ake i ngā maunga tapu. Ko haipipi ki te raki, ko kohu ki te tomokanga, ko tātara me hurangi ki te tonga, ko matarua hau ki te moana. Ko ngā tapu o te rangi, ko ngā tāwhi tō te rangi. I tā kia mai, ko te tapu, ko te mana, ko te mauri o ngā atua. E hohoua mai no i o matua kore. Kia whakatākina te waere ki runga ki tēnei taura. Kia mahia te hua mā ki kihi. E papa no whiti nui no whiti rangi. Tēnā maranga kia eke rerehu atu ki te rangi eke pānuku eke tāngaro atu mai te toki haumi e hui e.
Tai ki. I'd like to acknowledge you, the Mayor, Preston, and the councillors of Napier City Council. To the staff and the organisers of the council, acknowledgements to you all and the supporters also. Who stands here? On my mother's side, she's from down south. Those are her tribes. On my father's side, he is from here, from these tribes. Rapihana Te Kaha Hawaikirangi is my name.
Good afternoon all. I'd just like to acknowledge the whānau that are sitting alongside myself. So a big mihi to the whānau. Did you want to introduce everyone? Or? Yeah, ka pai, ka pai.
Acknowledgements to all. My name's Henewai Ormsby. Kia ora.
Kia ora, no Chad Tareha.
That's Chad Tareha. Matt Mulaney. Tamati. Te whānau Kent.
So our submission is on behalf of Waiuhiki Marae, which is based in Waiuhiki. The marae is home and meeting place for our whānau of Ngāti Pāro. The boundaries of the hapu and a place of residence for a lot of our whānau is in the Napier City area. I also put in a submission on my behalf. I'll be speaking to the points stated in both of the submissions this afternoon. I'll speak to the key points made in those submissions and provide context and detail to each of those points. I will also reflect on some of the statements made over the last few days. Although what I state this afternoon is not specifically in my submission, I hope the appropriate weighting is provided to the context provided to the statements that I have put in the submission. I'm fortunate enough to sit as a trustee on Ngāti Pāro Hapu Trust, also on Māori land blocks, Papakainga and Kaupapa Māori-based education environmental trusts. Sitting on these trusts has also helped shape our view on the matters of Māori wards. I'm also a member on the Ngā Mānukanuko Te Iwi Committee. I'd like to acknowledge all of the speakers before us, the passion, the frustration of whānau that have come here to share their views on why Māori wards are needed for our city. No doubt you have seen and felt the importance of Māori wards and what it means for not only Māori but leaders within our community. I enjoyed especially the kōrero from our students from Taradale High yesterday. They shared the kōrero around equity and fairness, which resonated well. I hope this also resonated well with you all. He mihi tēnō nui kia rata. I would also like to acknowledge the Council's role in this hearing. He mahi taumaha tēnei. A heavy role you all have. Today or tomorrow, you have the opportunity to leave your mark on the wall of walk. I hope your legacy and the legacy of this council is one our future generations will see as leadership for our next generation. Leadership towards a fair and equitable representation democracy for Māori of Napier. And also leadership in strengthening and healing the partnership with mana whenua and Māori. It's been 181 years since the treaty was signed, a partnership with Tangata Te Riti and Māori, the founding document of our nation. It's been almost 171 years since the signing of the Ahuriri Purchase, Tariha Te Moana Nui Rangatira of Ngāti Pāro, signing of a document that enabled the establishment of the city of Napier. What both of these events signify and the intent of these documents is partnership. I'll just park those statements there, but we'll circle back to them later. The question before consideration of the Napier City Council. Do you support the establishment of Māori constituencies for the Napier City Council? From our view, the answer is yes, and the time is now. The submissions that were received as a part of this hearing paints a picture. What's important to note is the quality of the submissions presented, specifically those that are for Māori wards. What must also be obvious is the overwhelming majority of people who have presented the last 2 days. Those who have fronted, who have stood up before you to share their kōrero, show their passion and no doubt frustration. Those who have come in support of Māori wards. Those who have come here to stand up for what they believe is tika, what is right. The majority of whom will be the most affected from this decision. They have fronted over the last few days. What does that tell us? I ask you to take not only the excellent and well-articulated reasons as to why we must have Māori wards, but also the heartfelt kōrero. Take it all into consideration. 95% of people who are on the Māori wards, the peoples whose votes are the ones this council will make a decision on. Those who are the most impacted from this decision casted yes to establishing Māori wards. I move to a point within the submission. Māori interests have traditionally been underserved and starved of representation. Establishing Māori constituencies is a way to correct the historical injustice. It must be said that it is great we have the likes of Api and Sally in recent years who hold Māori whakapapa and are champions for their constituents. We see the great mahi you contribute, he mihi tino nui kia koru. But a pātai
Big
that should be
acknowledgements
asked
to you
is
both.
how many Māori have been elected historically to the Napier Council? I took a crack at this answering this question, and I'm happy to be corrected if I'm wrong. Looking back at the record, how many Māori have been elected to the council? For 3, maybe? Maybe more. Out of how many? 3, maybe 400 since 1874? So I guess it begs the question, is there certainty that Māori will be sitting around the table if we continue with general wards only? History and numbers don't lie. It has not served Māori well in the past. Is it critical that we ensure there is an elected member who is Māori to have a voice and a vote at the decision-making table? Our answer is yes. Establishing Māori ward gives certainty that a strong Māori voice will always be present at council voting, at the council table, voting on decisions. I reflect back to the rangatahi rōpū yesterday. Māori wards is about equity, fairness, but also realising te tiriti o Waitangi. We also look at our surrounding councils, Wairau, Hastings, Hawke's Bay Regional Council. All have come to the same realisation that Māori wards is needed for our community in Te Mataua Māui. To those comments made regarding Māori wards being undemocratic, Māori wards will still be based on population of people on the Māori electorate. Candidates will still need to run and still need to be voted in. They will need to consider the challenges that our city faces, but will bring a specific Māori view and knowledge to the table for their constituents. This is not a negative or undemocratic. It's the opposite. It strengthens our democracy and provides a strong voice and vote at the table for their Māori constituents. I move to the next point. Māori constituents would ensure guaranteed Māori representation better reflecting our constitutional status under Te Tiriti o Waitangi. The trends and the winds of Aotearoa and local government are changing. Emphasis on partnership with mana whenua and Māori through Te Tiriti. The key cornerstones of the treaty. Partnership. Partnership involves working together with iwi, hapu, whānau and Māori communities to develop strategies and structure for Māori involvement in decision making. Participation. Participation requires Māori to be involved at all levels of local government sector, including decision making, planning, development and delivery of services. Protection. Protection involves the Council working to ensure Māori involvement in decision-making processes and safeguarding Māori cultural concepts, values and practices. Given the ever-increasing legislation importance of recognising and incorporating such perspectives in all public decision-making, Māori wards can only lead to better council processes and outcomes. I'd like to read a section from the interim report of the Review of Local Government, September 2021. The decision comes at a time when central government is working towards a second tranche of legislation amendments, the details of which are not yet clear. The second stage of reform had been described as developing a permanent mechanism for local authorities to establish Māori wards and constituents. So reflecting back on those comments, and also those comments from the rangatai yesterday, this is the future. Māori wards of some sort is coming. Representation, governance, decision-making is coming. If Māori wards are denied, it is simply kicking the can down the road. The rangatai said that yesterday, I thought I'd include it. And make no mistake, a no vote will leave a poor legacy and another black mark on the war walk for our future generations to see. Again, the winds are also changing within our community. I reflect back on a survey undertaken by the Napier City Council in 2017 on Māori wards. 72% of respondents in Napier opposed establishing Māori wards, and 22% were in favour. We fast forward to 4 years later, 2021. The submissions on this hearing has changed to 45% in favour and 54% against, doubling in support of Māori wards in only 4 years. What will this look like in another 4 years? Why wait until then when we can act now? I move to another point within the submission. Establishing Māori constituents would add to the Council's existing methods to engage with Māori, not replace them. They provide another avenue for issues of priority, concern or interest to Māori on the Māori electorate roll to be more directly brought to the Napier City Council. An elected Māori councillor will support building stronger partnerships and leadership, enabling views specifically for Māori within council. This will build a more robust decision-making process and sharing of views. As stated earlier in the reference to the interim local government review, the relationship between local government and Māori is being re-examined as the country moves towards a new phase in strengthening Te Tiriti o Waitangi relationships. Again, the trends and winds of Aotearoa and local government are changing, evolving, emphasis on partnership. Some of the obvious examples include legislation of the Three Waters and the proposed 50-50 governance model. Replacement of the RMA, where there will be greater importance and requirements of mana whenua and decision-making processes. I'd like to again reference a segment from the interim report of the review of local government. This focuses on the importance of local government to Māori and mana whenua. The report states, effective local governance is essential to New Zealand's lives and well-being. Local authorities play a critical role in the country's system of democracy, providing for people's voice to be heard in the leadership of their communities and the delivery of local services and assets, as we all know. Local authorities also help create the environment we live in. Their activities determine the extent to which communities' basic needs such as clean air and water are met. They influence the places and homes we live in, the strength and cohesion of our communities, how we move from place to place, our health and safety, how prosperous we are, how we spend our time, the health of our democracy, the strength of te tiriti relationships, and our sense of shared identity. The big issues facing Aotearoa are all experienced at a local level. Inequity, climate change, employment and economic participation, housing, racism and discrimination, environmental harm and the challenges with physical and mental health and many other issues play out at a local and subnational level. And solutions require local action. Ineffective local governance can create or increase challenges. Effective local governance can create the conditions in which community prosper and thrive. So reflecting on those comments from the report, I'm sure we've all heard these challenges before, but as a reminder, here are a few facts. Home ownership for Māori sit around 28.2%. Incarceration rates for Māori sit around 50% of the prison population. Māori life expectancy is 7 to 7.4 years less than non-Māori. Material hardship, over 39% of Māori children sit in that category. Income is 71% that of Pākehā. Education, 25.5% leave secondary school with no upper education. Now, reflecting on those figures, I put that up against some of the comments I've heard regarding Māori privilege and special treatment. I see no privilege or special treatment in those numbers. So I circle back to the point we made in the submission. Establishing Māori constituents would add to the city's existing methods to engage with Māori, not replace them. They provide another avenue for issues of priority, concern or interest to Māori on the Māori electric roll to be more directly brought to the Napier City Council. Decision-making and sharing of views. Mindful that the bell had rung, but I've just got a few more sections, so hopefully, kia ora.
It's good as gold.
Māori constituents, next point, Māori constituents may increase Māori participation and voting in the local body elections. Pātaias, how many whānau do you know are voting in local elections? A lot don't. Why? Is it a distrust in the system, or thinking things won't change for me, so why vote? The people I can vote for don't understand my challenges. It's not unreasonable to think that if we have Māori wards and Māori candidates, that those on the Māori electorate will feel more comfortable and motivated to engage in our democracy. If this is achieved, that's a benefit. Those that need a voice will have one. Those that are elected will work hard for those voices. What's good for Māori is good for a long, strong future. Moving on to another point within the submission. Establishing Māori constituents is actually an invitation by Māori to be a part of a community in which you can authentically and openly learn and contribute and what it means to truly be a member of this community. To know what it means when all cultures are values and expressed under te tiriti or waitangi. Another comment made yesterday from our rangatai is that Māori wards adds mana to this council, not take it away. It strengthens the relationship and value the council holds with Māori of Ahuriri. I heard the whānau yesterday and today what it means if Māori wards are implemented. The feeling was one of being valued, that this council values the treaty through partnership, participation and protection. That the feeling of voters of voting yes on Māori wards means a bright future for their kids and mokopuna in our city. As a koia put in yesterday's kōrero, it would be awesome. We've heard the importance of te ao Māori values and what this can mean for our community. Principles like kaitiakitanga, when we look at our estuary and our waterways. Manaakitanga, our people in need, supporting through crisis and challenging situations. Whanaungatanga, building resilient and prosperous communities. These may in part be some of the things that are happening now within Council, but they can become the foundation of decision making. The last point I would like to make is in regards to risk. I'd like to read and emphasise the section within the Council report. Generally, mana whenua and ahuriri iwi entities have voiced their support for the establishment of Māori wards for 2025. Ongoing constructive relationships with mana whenua and iwi entities is vitally important to ensuring council decisions are balanced, informed by Māori voice, and contribute to the well-being of whenua and whānau. A decision not to establish Māori wards could have a cooling effect on the relationships going forward, particularly when Hastings District Council, HPRC Council have both resolved to establish Māori wards. A vote of no by our council would impact on our relationships with Māori iwi and see us as an outlier of the region. Council officers are currently exploring alongside ngā mānukanuka o te iwi ways to better integrate the committee into council's governance structure. A vote of no may inhibit us progressing with this work and negatively affect participation in the committee. Parties concerned about a decision not to establish Māori wards may take formal action against Council, perhaps by way of judicial review. Our legal advisors assess that the risk of successful judicial review of a no vote is materially higher than for a yes vote. This could be particularly affected by the matters identified by the councils as reasons for the position of the issue. A no vote would potentially damage relationships between council and mana whenua, tangata whenua. It may have a powerful deterrent on Māori participation in all aspects of council business going forward, which would result in less balanced and less robust decision making. It should be noted that a claim has also been raised with the Waitangi Tribunal against the Crown covering Council's decision to postpone considering Māori wards until later this year. I thought it was a really good summary. We know that mana whenua are not happy regarding Māori wards not happening in 2022. From that position alone, wounds need to be healed. If there is a no vote, the relationship with mana whenua will likely deteriorate rapidly and the wound will deepen. The confidence and membership of ngā mānuka o te iwi will also likely deteriorate. I reflect back to the original position of the committee that Māori wards must be implemented with urgency. We have had the time to engage, and now it is the time to vote and implement that recommendation. If the vote is no, where will this leave the relationship with mana whenua and Māori? What impact will this have on the functions of council in progressing planning and projects? How will this be perceived regionally and nationally? I say this again, a change in the winds, a change in legislation. Mana whenua will need to be at the decision-making table. If mana whenua and Māori refuse to engage or support processes within council because there's a no vote, the council risks crippling its relationship, which will impact on the function or potentially impact on the function of council. Whether you're on the fence or not regarding Māori wards, and perhaps you do not resonate with the reasons why Māori wards is needed, from a pure risk factor point, yes to Māori wards is the correct decision to make. I thank you all, lastly, I thank you all for coming here with an open mind. And I also hope you felt the importance of Māori wards from all our speakers who have presented. I circle back to the statements I made at the start of our kōrero. It's been 181 years since the treaty was signed, the founding document of our nation. It's been 171 years since signing of the Ahuriri Purchase, enabling the establishment of our city of Napier. Both events a long time ago, both with the intent of partnership. Today or tomorrow, you have the opportunity to leave your mark on the war walk. You have the opportunity to leave your mark on the war walk. I hope your legacy and the legacy of this council is one our future generations will see as leadership for our next generation. Leadership towards a fair and equitable representation democracy for Māori of Napier, and also leadership in strengthening and healing the partnership with mana whenua Māori. 2021, now is your time to say yes to Māori wards. Tia mauri ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Te Kaha. I'll just open up for any councillors who have any questions. As I said earlier, we get to the end of submissions and most of the questions have all been asked already. Thank you, that's been a really valuable submission. Thank you for your time. Thank you to your whānau who came and supported you. And I will allow Bev to thank you and then we'll be closing for the day.
Ki wairua
the descendants of the tribes of Te Whanganui Aorotu, voicing the needs and the aspirations, standing in truth and your mana, challenging the opinions of the councillors. Thank you to Te Mānukanuka o Te Iwi Trust. Tēnā koutou. Thank you.
Before we close for the day, I just would like to take an opportunity to say thank you to everybody that has made submissions, both written submissions and verbal submissions over the last 2 days. Every single submission is incredibly valuable and assists us in our decision-making process. So thank you to everybody that has taken the time to participate and contribute to our Māori wards consultation and decision. And I'd just like to ask Morihuti Tomo to close us with a karakia as we adjourn for the day and return tomorrow for deliberations.
Greetings to all who have presented today and yesterday over the 2 days. I'd like to acknowledge you all for your strength and looking after our kaupapa today. It is a very important issue. Acknowledgements to you, to Papa, and to all the councillors and staff members. As we conclude today and yesterday the submissions, and tomorrow we turn to the deliberations and discussions, and ultimately the vote, the yes or no vote. And now, karakia.
Kia ora.